Hey there, this is Andrew Coppens, your Chicago real estate agent with Baird & Warner, and this is Closing with Coppens. Today, we're going to talk about the dreaded multiple offer news that many of us agents have had to deliver over the past year. I know so many buyers out there that have been scared off by the horror stories of bidding wars, escalation clauses, and waiving inspections that they don't even want to be in the market for a new home anymore. Here's the truth. I don't blame you. But here's another truth. Most of those horror stories are coming from people leaving the city and buying in the burbs, or oftentimes buying single-family homes here in Chicago. After a crazy spring and early summer, we're actually seeing some signs that now may be a great time to enter back into the market if you've been afraid of those dreaded words. There are multiple offers on this property. But even if you end up in a multiple offer situation now, I'm here to tell you that you might just be able to win without going crazy. So give these 3 keys some thought before you jump out of a market that's increasingly becoming in your favor as a buyer. First off, know your limits. It is super tempting to get into that rat race out there, especially when you develop a love of a home. That emotional bond can be hard to overcome, but it can also lead you to do things that you wouldn't or shouldn't do to get the home. So sit down with your agent before you begin your search and discuss what your preferred price would be and what your absolute max really is. How do you know what that looks like? That means it's time to best speak with a mortgage lender that your agent recommends. Believe it or not, but many people don't have a real clue as to what they could afford or what they want to spend. Getting that pre-approval could open your eyes and give you and everybody else involved in your search some clarity. Once you've got that pre-approval, that's the best time for all 3 parties to sit down and discuss what the limits of that pre-approval are and what the buyer is really comfortable spending. Trust me, there is nothing worse than falling in love with a home that you either can't afford or can't afford to get into a bidding war over. Knowing your limits off of the bat will save you time, money, and stress. It will also allow your agent to negotiate confidently and quickly on your behalf. Which brings me to my number 2 on this list, building relationships. When dealing with the potential to have to get into a multiple offer bidding war, the relationships developed can really matter a lot. The best relationship that could develop is actually between you and the seller's agent, if you're lucky enough to have the agent at your showing. And that's because not only can they see you physically interacting with the property, you also have a chance to communicate your real level of interest too. And sometimes that relationship between you and the property can thus be communicated to the seller's client and could put you on top of all the other bids on the home. After all, the seller's agent knows the motivations for their clients selling the home, and maybe your motivation for buying the home matches, and that can make all the difference in standing out amongst the offers. Additionally, the relationship developed between your agent and the mortgage lender, like I mentioned before, can also help here. If your agent can confidently speak to the strength of your pre-approval, it can also make all the difference in the world. Believe it or not, knowing just how strong your pre-approval is and the details from the lender can tip the scales, and plenty of agents don't care beyond getting that letter in their hands. But there is one more relationship that should be built, and you should be asking about it from your agent. How do they work with the seller's agent? I've seen deals fall apart or very strong offers not be accepted simply because there's no trust built between the agents. After all, if you can't trust the agent, can you trust the deal is going to close? And remember, that's the goal for every seller, finding a buyer that will actually close on their home sale. As a buyer, your agent's relationship with the seller's agent can also help to give you clues on the motivations or needs of the seller. If you can structure your offer to meet those needs regardless of being the highest bidder or not, you may still win. And you could save yourself money in the process, and who doesn't want to do that? But if there's no relationship built, there's no way to know how to best structure your offer. It simply just becomes a guessing game based on price, and that may not be in your best interest. Which brings me to my 3rd thing, the final thing that can help you get under contract on that home of your dreams. The presentation of your offer. Many buyers don't know this, but how your offer is presented can oftentimes be the deal breaker in a multiple offer situation. It's also the culmination of literally everything that we've talked about already. This is where the knowledge of your limits meets the relationships that have been built and gets you to presenting the strongest offer that you can. But how it's presented matters a lot too. A good agent should know the strengths and weaknesses of the offer being presented and be able to effectively communicate them when submitting your offer. How they highlight the good and explain the weak helps the seller's agent when sorting through the offers. So don't be afraid to ask how your agent actually presents an offer. Are they just sending your offer and that pre-approval as an attachment and saying, haha, surprise, here's our offer? Or do they take the time to make your offer attractive no matter what? Are they communicating why you are offering the price you're offering? How much earnest money is being presented? Or the terms of the mortgage? What if you've got to sell your home to buy the new one? Your agent should be explaining where you're at in that process of that sale, helping to alleviate any doubts about that contingency or any others that may be in the mix. And that could be the difference between an offer going to the bottom of the pile and staying in the mix. Furthermore, is your agent also explaining the flexibility on some of the terms of the deal as well? That's especially helpful when it comes to things like closing date or possession time frame. I've seen it time and again where meeting a shorter closing time or being able to extend that closing time is actually the deal breaker, not making that little bit of extra money. Your agent may not know those pieces of the puzzle right away, but if they're having discussions with you as to your flexibility, that makes it easier to communicate in any negotiation about your offer. Additionally, if they've had discussions with the selling agent prior to the offer, they may actually know things like what closing date the seller's looking for and be able to advise you as to what parts of the offer could tip the scales in your favor. There's more, but it all adds up to a much greater chance than, simply splashing cash or going crazy on waiving inspections and all the nonsense and all the crazy stories you've heard all summer long. Oh, and one more thing to not do in a multiple offer scenario. Write a personal letter to the seller. Look, I know some agents may tell you to go ahead and do it, but given fair housing laws and how easy it is to violate them with that letter, I would advise you to never do it. It's going to hurt your agent, the seller's agent, and it will kill your deal if found out. Whether that violation is real or perceived, it doesn't matter. There are better, much less legally ambiguous ways to win those multiple offer scenarios. Of course, nothing is foolproof. After all, the answer to everything in real estate is, it depends. But controlling what you can control in this process, like the relationships that you can build, knowing your own limits, and making sure that you and your agent can communicate your offer in the best way, are all things that you, the buyer, have full control over. Believe it or not all real estate deals are just about the money. If you want to know more about how to win that dreaded multiple offer situation as a buyer, or you've got a home to sell and you want to know how to get the deal that works best for you, you can find all my contact information right here, right now. So come find out what it's like to close with COPPENS here in Chicago today.